So Warner Brothers Games is canceling their Wonder Woman game, and they have also shut down Monolith Studios, the company who was developing the Wonder Woman game, and they are also the studio behind Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. And this news is not that surprising to hear, considering that WB so far has spent $100 million trying to make the Wonder Woman game. And to me, this just seems like a complete, just a complete blow to the studio. And it's just very frustrating to hear this as someone who was really looking forward to this Wonder Woman game, because there were reports from Jason Schreier at Bloomberg, and he made this giant article talking about how WB was going through this massive transition where the president of WB, David Haddad, apparently he was a horrible boss to work for. There were lots of people complaining about him, and they also just hated how they kept trying to shift everything over to this whole multiplayer focus, even though WB Games as a publisher is known for their great single player story narrative based campaigns. So WB released this statement to Kotaku that says, "We have had to make some very difficult decisions to structure our development studios and investments around building the best games possible with our key franchises, Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, and Game of Thrones. After careful consideration, we are closing 3 of our development studios, Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Brothers Games San Diego. This is a strategic change in direction and not a reflection of these teams or the talent that consists within them. The development of Monolith's Wonder Woman video game will not move forward. Our hope was to give players and fans the highest quality experience possible for the iconic character, and unfortunately, this is no longer possible within our strategic priorities. This is another tough decision as we recognize Monolith's storied history of delivering epic fan experiences through amazing games. We greatly admire the passion of the 3 teams and thank every employee for their contributions. As difficult as today is, we remain focused on and excited about getting back to producing high-quality games for our passionate fans and developed by our world-class studios, and getting our games business back to profitability and growth in 2025 and beyond." But really, all this screams to me is just a complete major fuck up from their CEO, David Haddad. He was just, it sounds like, all these bad things, they all come from the top, and his strategy of trying to cram multiplayer into studios where they have no experience on multiplayer, it is just so frustrating, because I was really looking forward to this Wonder Woman game, because the whole idea of having the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor and implementing that into a Wonder Woman game, that sounded like such a great idea, and they had all the ingredients together to make a good Wonder Woman game, because of their history from Rocksteady and because of the story that they had in Shadow of Mordor. They had everything possible, but instead they kept, this just reeks of corporate interference, where the publisher keeps telling the developer, we need to add a bunch of things that is clearly not going to work, and then they change directors and trying to force all this stuff, and clearly all of it was just going down the drain, and now look what happened. So I really hope whatever happens next, whatever leader they get, and hopefully for their next DC games coming out, hopefully they learn their lesson that we do not want fucking multiplayer games for DC Comics. Or even then, even if you were going to make something multiplayer based, why don't you have a studio that's actually focused on making a good multiplayer game instead of trying to develop a single player game and then trying to ham fist multiplayer into it? It's just, how many times does this have to happen in the video game industry? And yet these giant corporations, they still don't learn. It's just a pain in the ass to deal with, to see stuff like that. And especially me as a DC fan and as a fan of what Monolith did, not only with Shadow of Mordor, but also as a fan of the Fear FPS games that they also created. I enjoyed those, and it sucks to see a bunch of people lose their jobs. It's just horrible. And hopefully, whatever WB decides to do, hopefully they get a CEO that actually understands the gaming business, someone who actually understands what gamers want, instead of trying to ham fist multiplayer into every fucking thing. So anyways, that's what happened today, and it's very frustrating.